You are now listening to The Perfect Prana with Kyah Ann. What's poppin'? What's good? You're listening to The Perfect Prana Show. I'm Kyah Ann, your host, a yoga practitioner, instructor, a stretch therapist, and I am just a girl, and I'm very blessed to be here with you all today. If you love yoga, this is the perfect place to be, and if you do not love yoga, this is still the perfect place to be because I have a lot in store for you all today between the yoga news, what's going on in the world and how it relates to yoga, Yoga Heals, where I bring on a very special guest and speak to them about their practice, and the yoga theme where I talk concepts, and I've been creating asanas to go along with those concepts. But before we get into all of that, let's center ourselves. Let's focus on our prana. Let's focus on our breath. Prana translating to breath is in the breath of life, our life energy source, our life force, our vital life energy. There are so many translations. Prana, our chi, let's focus on that. So no matter what you're doing, no matter where you're at, you're driving in the car, you're sitting in the house, you're laying in the bed, you're walking in the park, just notice your breath without controlling it. Create a nice line of energy from your tailbone to your crown, keeping notice of your breath. And notice how breath moves through you with a little bit more ease as you align your spine. Roll your shoulders up to your ears and back and down away, lengthening out your neck. Maybe slightly tuck your chin. If it's safe for you to do so, close your eyes. If it's safe for you to do so, have your palms face upward as if you are receiving a gift. And gradually begin to deepen your inhales and lengthen your exhales. It's a very gradual process. With each breath, taking in more oxygen. With each exhale, expiring more what you do not need. Breathing at your own pace. No matter what breath you're on, with me, go ahead, exhale all the air. And then deep inhale through your nose, fill up your belly, your rib cage, filling up all the way to the crown of your head, puffing up your chest, keeping your chin tucked. And then exhale, sigh it out. Letting out whatever sound you need to, releasing. And let your breath come back to a steady rhythm. I am centered. Let's get on with the show. Yoga news. Yoga pill could one day stop anxiety attacks by targeting a specific area of the brain. Scientists are developing new medicine and new methods. And something to note is more than 40 million adults in the U.S. have an anxiety disorder, according to the National Alliance of Mental Health. Not shocking at all. I literally have to pray the anxiety away. I noticed as a teenager, wow, I'm super angsty, and that never really went away. It's just something that, I gotta face every day, and most of us have to do it. Just a little bit from the article. Scientists have identified the specific part of the brain that controls conscious slow breathing and meditation techniques. and said the breakthrough could create a whole new class of anti-anxiety drugs they're dubbing the yoga pill. The pill could make a person suffering from a panic attack or anxiety automatically slow and deepen their breaths without them having to think and force themselves to do breathing exercise, neuroscientist Sung Han told Los Angeles Times. The future drugs could mimic the experience and results of yoga and other meditative activities. I don't know if I heard this somewhere or why I started saying this, but it was just a realization that I had, was that, man, life always leads to yoga. I don't care who you are. Nobody's exempt. We are all going to be led to this practice, whether it's something that we consciously do. Like, I would say I've made the conscious decision to dedicate myself to practice, or whether it's something that is more unconscious, where it's just a necessity. Might do it intuitively, like, I started doing this and I don't know why, but it felt good. Like, some people might stretch their arms out when they wake up. I'd say that could even be considered yoga. It's just something that they just needed to do. Like, I really just need to stretch this part of my body, or I just need to do this movement to feel good. Some people might have it prescribed to them to do yoga, where they get injured and they go to physical therapy, or they go to some other health facility, or some doctors like, yeah, so you need to do these movements in order to restore or repair this part of your body. And a lot of them are yoga movements. Like, life is just always going to lead to yoga. I don't care who it is. You know, if we're overwhelmed, sometimes we just might have to sit in silence, where we get so overwhelmed that we have to be alone and sit in silence. You know, you can do that on your own accord, or a life can literally force you into that position where it's like, I'm so overwhelmed, I can't do anything, I'm stuck here in silence right now. I can't talk, I can't comprehend, I can't do anything else but just be here inside. I've had moments like those. Moral of the story is, life is always going to lead to yoga, and I think it's interesting that they are trying to make a yoga pill, a pill for people to get the benefits of yoga without actually practicing yoga. I mean, I literally read from the article, and I quote, automatically slow and deepen their breaths without them having to think and force themselves to do the breathing exercise. That is crazy. I mean, I guess you can take a pill for that, and that might be beneficial, and some people may need that, but I am for having bodily autonomy. I think there's nothing more powerful than going through some circumstance and taking control of yourself, taking control of your body, and getting through that circumstance. Why does there need to be a pill for everything? You know what? I'm glad that scientists are discovering and working and doing things, but, you know, why not just go back to the roots? Why not just sit there and do the meditative activity? You know, is there really an easy way out? Can you just take a pill to get rid of your issues, or is it something that you're really going to have to work on? Everybody has a different perspective on that, and I am stepping into a place of non-judgment. However, I just think this is a little bit unnecessary. I think instead of, normalizing pills and whatnot, we should get more to the place of normalizing the process of what it takes to just become a whole person and to become healthy. Normalize the process. And the funny thing is, a lot of people will take pills for something. They'll take this weight loss pill. They'll take this future yoga pill. They'll take any pill for anything, but then they realize they're taking the pill and they still have to do the work. They're taking the blood pressure pill, but they still have to do the work to be healthier, to solve whatever issue it is that they have. You cannot escape the process. I don't care how many pills you are prescribed and you have access to, you can't escape the process. So maybe this can alter your brain chemistry just a little bit, but sometimes we just have to do the deeper work. People get on steroids and they still have to go to the gym and lift weights. I mean, maybe the pills can be tools and it can be useful, but one thing is you can't escape the process, and that is just something that I want everybody, and even myself, to keep in mind. Next, starting January 1st, 2025, Orange Theory Fitness, the exercise coach, and exponential fitness brands will no longer be in the Renew Active Fitness network. Is this really news or a news story? No, surprisingly not, but my clients are very, very upset. For those of you who don't know, I work as a stretch therapist at an exponential fitness brand, and we have clients. And some of those clients were able to experience our services because they had great insurance. They were with United Healthcare. They had this Renew Active premium that allows them to have access to different luxury fitness brands and gym memberships and all this great stuff. They were paying a hefty amount a month for this fancy insurance. Anyways, I've had several clients today and over the past couple weeks be super upset because they found out that in January 2025 that their premium plan will no longer be covering the brand that I work for. And by the way, I work at Stretch Lab, for those of you who do not know. And I am not completely clear on why United Healthcare decided to not cover these fitness facilities anymore. They only cover one, which is LA Fitness now. And look, like I said, people are very upset about this, and it sparked a lot of political conversations in my place of work. I did Google why this is happening exactly, and this is what AI told me on Google. They mentioned cost effectiveness, low usage rates, and digital shift. They want to reduce costs associated with premium fitness programs because they feel that they are not seeing a significant return on investment in terms of improved health outcomes for members. Basically, the United Healthcare members have access to these fancy fitness places, but they're still super unhealthy. So we're not going to keep investing in your Pilates class or stretch class if most of you are unhealthy. Now, this doesn't speak to all of them because I have some clients that they seem pretty healthy to me, but again, I guess they have a lot of peers that are also United Healthcare members that are not that healthy. And then also low usage rates. They're saying that there's not enough usage of these premium fitness benefits. Maybe that's why so many people are still unhealthy that have these great healthcare benefits. Mind you, health insurance companies, they want us to be healthy. I guess they really don't care, but there is a push for us to be healthy because you're paying all this money And then if you actually have to go to the doctor, that takes away from their profits. Same with car insurance. If you actually use the car insurance, you actually get in a car accident, now your rates are going to go up. They don't want you to actually use the insurance. They just want you paying every month, not using it, because that is a great business model. That makes money. But if they actually have to pay for your accidents or actually have to pay for your medical expenses, then they're like, you're taking away from our profits. Let's just charge you more. And then also something interesting that came up was a digital shift. There's a growing trend towards providing wellness programs through digital platforms and wearable devices, which is more accessible and cost effective. So yeah, I could see that. It would definitely, if I was a business owner, if I owned United Healthcare, instead of paying for people to go take this expensive Pilates class, I'm like, I'll just give you Pilates on this tablet right here online, so you don't actually have to go into these facilities. Because let me tell you, these facilities are expensive. Everyone knows it's way less expensive to have things virtually than it is to actually have things in real life. That is just the way things are. But the conversation at my job is that they are losing government funding, or government funding is cut back for them, so they are taking away these premium benefits. I've also seen or heard that maybe other insurance companies are offering these premium benefits, or maybe United Healthcare has another plan that will offer these premium benefits. It'll just cost a little bit more. Either way, people are mad, and they are turning this into a political issue to do with the election and all that stuff. And I just don't think that that is the case. I mean, look, I Googled why this is happening. It's nothing to do with the companies, like exponential companies. It's everything to do with United Healthcare. This is why AI says it's happening, because, you know, low usage rates, and then it's just cost effective, budget cuts. People at my job are saying it's the government cutting the funding. And I say, I think the money is there. If they wanted to afford this, they could. But at the end of the day, this is a corporation, and they have to maximize profits. Whether they're getting government funding or not, one of my clients told me they're paying $400 to $500 a month. Granted, some of that money has to go to their doctor or whatever, but if you have people paying basically a car note for insurance, the insurance company should be able to afford services like your Pilates class or your stretch session or your Orange Theory, whatever. There has to be a better way. I guess the insurance companies just want more money. Or there should be more agency in what you want your insurance money to go to. I want my insurance money to go to the doctor, or I want my insurance money to go to the gym. There should be a little bit more agency. It should just be a better system. My heart goes out to all those that are paying a lot of money, but they still can't get the services that they want to get that relate to their health. That's just robbery. It is health insurance after all, so I do want services that are going to uphold my health. But either way, you know, yoga is really free. And whether you have health insurance or not, it costs nothing to breathe, to meditate, to do a few postures, to do a few stretches. It's free. And that's what I love most about yoga. And it is preventative health care. To simply just breathe, to do your postures, to do your stretches, and to even practice the other aspects of yoga. It costs nothing. So to all those that are worried about their health insurance offering less or becoming worse, don't fret, my pet. That is still a great possibility that you'll be healthy and okay. Yoga Heals. This week's Yoga Heals Guinn Peace. And yes, that is her last name. Peace is very fitting. Guinn is a full-time yoga instructor and an entrepreneur. She owns her own business, Pax Yoga Plus Wellness, which specializes in teaching yoga and group fitness classes in different settings such as schools, hospitals, offices, private events, residential high-rises, etc. She has a background in psychology, and she is currently training to become a certified yoga therapist. I met Guinn at the Yoga Summit. It was a yoga event in Chicago. I met her back in September, and she has a lot of insight to share with us between being a yogi and a business owner. Let's just get on with the conversation. Hey, Guinn, thank you so much for being here with me today on my show, The Perfect Prana Show. I'm so happy that you agreed to participate. The first thing that I ask every single person that comes onto the show is about their background with yoga, when they started practicing yoga, why they still practice yoga today.
Cool. Thank you so much for having me, Kyah. I'm excited to be here. So, my name is Guinn Peace. I'm from Lincoln, Nebraska, and I started practicing yoga when I was, I think, like 13 years old. And the only reason I went was because my dad is an architect and he designed a yoga studio and they gave him free yoga. So they passed it along to me because he was not interested. So I started doing yoga then, and I still do yoga today because of the serious positive impact it's made on my life and my well-being and my state of mind and just my overall wellness.
But yeah, so you had free classes for life. And again, you had this pretty young growing up through your whole teenage years. So kind of what has changed about your practice? How has it progressed or how has it changed since you've been 13?
Literally everything has changed. Everything has changed. And I'm so grateful for it too. When I first started going to yoga, I was really into ballet. I was a big ballerina. So to me, yoga was just like another opportunity to stretch and experiment with my flexibility. So that was fun. But I didn't understand the underlying benefits of yoga. I was going strictly for like fun and flexibility. And then as I got older into like my teenage years and college years, I started going as exercise, which is like how everybody gets introduced to yoga most of the time, right? Is in the West, at least, is by looking at it as a method of exercise. And then I started going through my first breakup, and I was in college and I was discovering who I was without my parents. And it was somewhat of a difficult time. And during that time, my yoga classes they began to be a spiritual experience. And they began to hold space for me that I wasn't able to access outside of my practice. So that's when I started. I think I was about 18 when I started realizing, like, whoa, hold on. This isn't just a workout. This is different. This is moving my body, but it's doing so much more. So that made me look into what yoga means and its ideologies and how it treats people, how it asks you to treat people, and especially during moments of despair and difficulty. And connecting with yoga and the sutras and the yogic lifestyle really made a serious impact and took me out of some pretty tough times of my life. So it's become more of a spiritual devotional practice than exercise.
Yeah, so you were probably, like most people with their yoga practice, just going to yoga classes. And, I'm not sure what your training was like, but you said you wanted to go deeper into the practice about philosophy and, the way of life that comes with a yoga practice. How did you go deeper into that subject? Was it something that you just researched on your own, or did you go to trainings?
Yeah, I began around the age of 18, 19, taking my practice off of the mat and taking it home and making it a part of it wasn't daily at that time. I wanted it to be daily. It wasn't. But I started just like uh starting practicing at home, meditating more, learning more about how I feel after specific types of yogas. And then around 2020, when the pandemic hit and the culture around getting together and being in groups and being able to enjoy yoga together really changed. And that was when my relationship with yoga deepened even more. I just started teaching classes by the lake. I had not gone to teacher training yet. I had not done anything. I just started leading people through little practices. And that was a whole nother jump in my yoga timeline and in my journey. That was just so eye opening to me. Yoga teachers, I'm sure you relate to this, but it just something took over me when I was teaching, even before I was trained. And I just felt so divinely connected and so blessed to be able to provide a space for people to come receive those blessings. So after that, that's when I decided, yeah, I need to make this really official and devote a bigger portion of my resources in life to this. So that's when I went to Mexico to do my teacher training. And that's when I really, really deepened my practice and learned more about the sutras and what they mean and the practices that have nothing to do with being on a mat, the practices that have to do with how you treat people and how you treat yourself and your body and your space. Um, so that changed a lot. And then after that, I quit my job. I was a full-time caregiver for the elderly, quit my job and was like, yeah, gonna do yoga. I'm not taking an opportunity that comes my way unless it's yoga. Cut everything out. So that's when I started teaching yoga full time. And oh, that's just been the biggest blessing because I get to devote my entire life to this yogic lifestyle. I don't have to go to a 9 to 5 and like communicate in 9 to 5 terms. And I don't have to act like strictly professional. And I don't have to avoid talking about spirituality and our connection with each other and the importance of breath because there's just not that much of a space for that kind of communication and activity when you're in a regular lifestyle. So that has given me the ability to like really think about yoga, what it means, study it, study myself, study my connection to all the other people here. And now I'm in school for yoga therapy. So that's even broadening my horizons more and making me understand the connection with our nervous system and our healing systems. So it just continues to grow.
Whoa, I just keep learning more and more and, putting the pieces together of your background. Because I was curious, how did you, I read about your background. You said that you went to school for psychology. So you're like, yeah, what did you do with that? And how did you end up working with elderly people, but then end up being a full-time yoga teacher? Like, where are these all these modalities, where are all these things connecting at? So could you talk a little bit about your background with psychology for a moment?
Absolutely. Yeah, I went to school at University of Nebraska Lincoln for psychology. I thought I wanted to be a doctor. I thought I wanted to eventually go to medical school because I've always been so called to healing and in the society that I grew up in and the people that I grew up in. Like, to me, healer and doctor were the only things that go together. So I was in school for psychology and I was learning a lot about the human mind and how we think and how traumas come out as behaviors. And I also had a lot of experience with, honestly, myself and people I knew with severe mental health issues. And I thought I wanted to help with that. So that's what I was focusing on in psychology. But the further I got along in school and the more I researched the field and what people actually do, the more I kind of started to question if that really aligned with me. And I began to observe some patterns in the medical world and the psychology world, and some serious problems with how they treat people and how they overdiagnose people and how everything can be only solved by like severe chemicals or surgeries or really invasive things that take you further and further away from yourself. So that's when I quit. I quit school my senior year in my second semester. And I kind of just was in a state of limbo. And I decided to go on a road trip to Chicago. And I never went back. I just stayed on my vacation in Chicago and I just applied to be a caregiver because that's who was hiring. And I got to nurture people. And then I did that for a long time. I did that for almost 6 years. And I very much enjoyed it for the time I was there. I was able to make a positive impact on people's lives, and I could apply certain things that I'd learned through yoga and psychology to help aid in the effects of end of life cycle problems. And then that became too much because they don't really treat caregivers the way I feel like they should be. I think the system is like, of course, it's difficult to like pay caregivers how much they need to, but and treat them right. But it's a really tough place to work in, and people are dying all the time. So you have to be comfortable with things that no like regular day-to-day people are not seeing in their life. But it did teach me a lot about nurturing and the difference it makes to just give someone your energy and your time. And when I decided I was done with that, that's when I went to Mexico. I ended up living in Mexico for quite a few months after my teacher training. And I came back and I was like, no, I'm not going back to my old life. I'm not going back to those things. I'm doing this thing that makes me feel so passionate and alive. And like I actually can use my voice to make a difference in people. And I think that the psychology really links to the yoga and specifically the yoga therapy that I'm working on, because I'm able to help in ways that have helped me. I'm able to provide people avenues of self-healing and self-understanding. And one more thing about the psychology that I noticed is so many people go to doctors with issues of chronic pain, chronic illness, chronic sadness, chronic hopelessness, but the doctors can't find real symptoms of what is causing this chronic pain, these chronic problems. And so they just put them on pills or like test things when realistically, from my viewpoint, people's energy isn't right. And that's where the disease comes from. So, and of course, in combination with Western medicine, it's a great thing to be able to provide for people. So that's how the psychology led me here. I feel like it's the same mission with a different avenue.
Man, so you kind of have a nomadic lifestyle, and it just seems like you've always been interested in caring for people. And just, you mentioned the word healing, using whatever resources and knowledge you have to just aid in healing. And that is truly a beautiful mission. And I think most people, especially like most people that are super into yoga and that maybe teach yoga, they all generally we all feel the same way. We just want to heal each other. We want to heal ourselves. And we're like, okay, this worked for me, let me try to help others and see if they can use some of these same methods. So thank you for kind of putting some pieces together on how you've gone from one thing to another in life. What I was going to ask you next was, so how did you get to being a business owner, and what made you go into this sector?
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons. Primarily, I saw a necessity. I have noticed that people that live and work in corporate metropolitan settings, oftentimes, despite being constantly surrounded by people, feel cut off from pieces of themselves and from connection to others. They also seem to be cut off from non-Western medicines and non-Western ideologies. Um, so I saw a necessity to and an opportunity to introduce yoga to people that are captive. I go to their offices. They would rather go to a yoga class than sit at their desks most of the time. Or I go to their residential buildings where they have to just travel downstairs. So I have a captive audience. On top of that, you can set your price. You can set your price and you can live a comfortable it allured to me because I wanted to teach yoga full time and I want to live the lifestyle that I see for myself, which is one of a goddess, one of luxury, one of access to abundance. So those desires to be able to heal, provide, expand the acceptance and knowledge of yoga, and set up a lifestyle where my time and my finances provide the space that I need to be comfortable and thriving and provide a healing space for others. So that's what made me want to go into the corporate sector. My parents run their own business, it's an architecture firm. So I watched them starting when I was 15. And I have always been, as you guys can probably tell from the answers, the type of person where I would rather forge my own path than like just blindly follow down what other people are doing or what we're quote supposed to do. I always knew that I wanted to start my own business, like before I ever even had an idea of what I wanted to do, because I want to be able to set my own parameters and I want to set my timeline and I want to be able to lead others and provide opportunities, not like for jobs, for education, for all of the things that come with being a business owner. So I think that gives me the freedom. It's a lot of responsibility for sure, but the freedom is worth more to me than a lack of responsibility.
Yeah, I'm here for it. I am birthed by an entrepreneur as well. So I definitely understand, even having your own business, your own brand, what makes it special is the passion, and it's, purely from you, and then also just for you as well, for your community. And, I could go on a complete tangent about why I love small businesses or I support people that are on that journey. And not every it's not for everybody. I
No,
do think that some people are more freelance and more and can live that lifestyle, and then other people being secure, having the stable job and everything kind of laid out for that area of life, that's totally fine as well. It depends on the person. And something I was going to say earlier as well is I, love that you are on the mission to teach people in offices and in these spaces, just because on one hand we might think, oh, they're privileged and they have all their needs met. They have money, they have homes, they have all these great things. And that is true, but there is definitely something missing from those day to day lifestyles, whether it's you're going to school, because school is basically just like a job, but you're not getting paid for it, you're paying for it.
Literally.
It's set up like a work environment. So whether it's school or whether you're going to your job, there's something missing from these institutions that they dampen our souls, or I don't know how else to put it. They just drain us from a lot of energy. So it is important to be in those spaces and giving people tools, because these, institutions, they have their purpose, but they all they care about is producing and how much we can produce, and not our well-being. So I'm here for the shift of them being like, okay, well, let's offer yoga classes, or let's offer mental health resources and all those great things. So you had mentioned it earlier, and I was curious to talk to you more about it, because we literally met at this meditation workshop, and you said you started to get into meditating more around the age of 18 when you wanted to get deeper into this yoga practice. Could you talk about your journey with meditation and kind of where you are with that now?
Mountain range of ups and downs with the meditation. Um, Meditation is it's like smoke. It's ungraspable most of the time until you're immersed. And meditation has always been something that shifts for me. And it's only, I think, really hit me. I don't, in like for real, in the last year or so of the benefits and the power in meditation. Because before I was doing it and I would just kind of sit there and try to be still, but my thoughts would just like run in every direction. And I think that's okay. But there wasn't a lot of reprieve in those first few years, even of meditation. But I've changed my lifestyle quite a lot in the last year or so. Um, I abstain from a lot of things. And I think that abstinence and periods of fasting have really added to my meditation. And they've made it so when I do meditate, I can enter that state with an open mind and really allow whatever is meant for me to be received in that time to be received with clarity and grace. My meditation always grows, but there's always times where it sucks. There's times where I sit down and I set a 35-minute timer and I leave after 4. And there's times where I set a 35-minute timer and I sit there for an hour and a half just completely entranced. So my my meditation journey is just all ups and downs like life.
Literally true. Mine is too. I barely have a meditation practice. And, where I just sit in silence for extended periods of time. And maybe I could do it for a few minutes, but it's something where I've been trying to honestly figure out myself. Like, where is the benefit? Or, like, where's the, it's not something that's very clear and concrete to me, as far as like, this is what I'm getting out of sitting here for 30 minutes, and that's something I've been trying to figure out. So I'm like, what are your concrete benefits, out of curiosity?
Totally. Let's talk about it because I was the same. I was feeling the same way literally up until this year. And I'd been doing it for 10 years. And I'm sitting here like, what am I doing? Like, I'm bored. I have other stuff that I really need to do. I freaking own a business. And now it's, it's like, when everybody's like, love comes when you're not looking for it. It comes when it's least expected. And I think meditation is that way. I think if you're looking for something, and you're trying, you'll get nothing. But well, I mean, there's benefits. There's benefits to sitting and doing nothing. The benefits include help with your blood pressure, help with your mental stimulation. There's tons of benefits just with your brain waves and chemicals that are slightly perceivable when you are just trying and just doing your best, and not really sure if anything really happened. There are things subtly that are benefited, but um for me now, I've been a lot more intentional with my meditations. And I do things like 5 days of the week, I meditate on a different sense each day. So one day I'm going to sit there and I'm going to contemplate and think about and notice every single detail of my sense of smell. On that day, I can smell any and everything around me. I feel like I get intuitive messages through things I smell, and so on and so forth with the rest of the senses. I feel like when I meditate upon a specific thing and I just get to know it and I look at it with no judgment, no expectations, just strictly observation, its connection with me increases. I'm a fiery girl. I am a fiery girl. So I feel that my fire is a little more tame when I meditate. It takes longer to get me ignited. And I think one of the most potent tools that I've added to my meditation is fasting. When I meditate on an empty stomach, my I feel like new information gets downloaded to me. I feel like I things become clear about myself. And when I track the small inklings of thought that come during my meditations and I watch them throughout the day, I feel more in tune with my intuition. Because to me, I feel like my intuition is that little thing that I skipped over. And when I meditate a lot, it becomes louder and clearer and more identifiable. So I just really feel more in tune with the energy around me and the spirit within me when I dedicate to meditation with no expectations.
That is so interesting. I generally feel like my thoughts move pretty fast already, but that's not always a positive thing. But with meditation or with fasting, at least I can say that for some reason it is a positive thing that the way that my thoughts move very fast. It's like I'm getting all the junk out versus, when I'm distracted by a ton of things. I've been on social media all day. Maybe I just ate a super heavy meal and a dessert and everything. And so then it's just like, I'm sorting through all these just pointless or useless thoughts.
I would love to mention, and I literally forgot about this until you just mentioned it, but social media, I deleted my Instagram app and all of my apps. Sometimes I get on Twitter, but I really only follow like spiritual girlies and like astrological things on there. So it's very like tuned in and spiritual when I am on there. But when I deleted Instagram, my meditations like kicked up 1,000 notches. I feel like we are not meant to be influenced, right? They're influencers. I feel that we are not meant to be influenced by that much information on a daily basis. I feel like our minds are not, we're machines and we can literally do anything our minds want to. But I don't think we're meant to be engaging with that many things. I don't think we're meant to be distracted by that many different topics. Because when I stopped using social media, my thoughts became more my own instead of like a meme playing in my head or like just thinking about a video I saw on Instagram because there's just so much information in there. Like what you consume is what you are. So if you're not intentional about like every bit of consumption you're engaging in, then your mind just flows anywhere and everywhere. So that's a huge thing that I think for me personally made a difference was not engaging in so much social media and keeping things more like here in this realm with people that I run into by divine timing.
Yeah. And, really lessening the information you're taking in at a time so you can truly absorb it and contemplate that information and even use it and apply it in life. So I'm here for it now. Am I a no social media person? Absolutely not. But I definitely know that when I want to increase my focus, I have to put down my phone. There's
Yeah.
no way that I'm going to learn what I need to learn if I'm stuck like in a doom scroll. There's no way. And I every day, is a day to learn something new. And it doesn't matter what you're learning, but as long as it's something that you like, that you enjoy, and that you can use and apply in life. So, yeah, I think you brought up a lot of good thoughts there, and it's something to think about is meditating and adding that in conjunction with fasting and like kind of how those two would affect each other. Okay, so to shift gears a little bit, every guest that I have this past season, I've been doing something where I wrote down a yama or a niyama, and I pick one randomly just for my guests to speak about their take on that. Um, if it's something that they practice daily, how they practice it, if it's something that they struggle with,
I'm
and let
so
us know.
excited. I love the spontaneity.
Saucha, cleanliness.
Love Saucha. I struggle. I physically, I don't. I think that Saucha covers many different aspects of life. To me, Saucha means cleanliness of mind, cleanliness of body, hygiene, and cleanliness of the spaces that you inhabit, as well as the things you eat. Um, I think that like hygiene and what I eat and what I consume, I'm pretty in tune with the cleanliness. I'm vegan. I practice a lot of yogic hygienic practices, and I think that makes a huge difference. I mean, when you feel good and you take good care of yourself, it glows from within. But I will say my house and my car are direct mirrors and windows into like my state of mind. And when my like and it also ties in with my cycle hormonally. When it's about that time of the month, like I just refuse to do certain things. Like my laundry gets backed up and my car doesn't get cleaned and I can feel it definitely. So it's not something that I'm perfect at. None of us are really perfect at anything. And it's definitely a challenge at times. But I honestly appreciate that because it gives me time to observe and know, even if I like feel like I'm doing okay, I'm like, wait, no, like you let too many dishes be in the sink this whole entire day. You need to look inside yourself and see if there's something you can clean up within and you need to clean those dishes. So, definitely something that I think is so important. It's such a valuable piece of feedback. Um, and like, when I've been through periods of depression where I was like, I don't even want to get in the shower. I literally want to lay down and rot and do nothing. So I think that Saucha is not only a practice that's valuable, but it's also valuable feedback into how you're doing and what your frequency is vibrating at right now.
Yeah, I mean, that is very interesting to think about because I mean, earlier you did speak about disease and kind of like how that's indicative of where your energy might be at. And then, cleanliness could also be another part of that too, is just kind of like, how am I keeping things? Is my energy so low that I don't want to take 2 minutes to hang up my coat,
Mhm.
or
Literally.
to to take 10 minutes to do these five dishes in my sink, or and I have to really ask myself sometimes and check in with myself, like, this would literally take me about this amount of time. Why don't I do it? Why don't I do this task? And then if I do get in the habit of where I just leave this mess here, it really starts to add up over time. And that kind of gets into more of a long term mood or state of mind. Um, I mean, I just remember being a teenager and how my room would just get so messy and it would add up over time. And I was such an angsty teen too. So I was definitely an angsty teen. So, I mean, and that was really just showing where my state of mind was as I was going through that time period in life. I guess so. what is the first step to you if you're feeling low energy, if you're struggling with cleanliness, and it could be in any aspect. It could be with food. Let's say I don't want to eat clean. I just want to keep eating these, I don't know, whatever people's pleasure,
Buffalo
guilty
tofu
pleasure.
wraps with fries.
Yeah, you said I want to keep eating this fried food, you know, or I don't feel like getting up and cleaning. I literally just like I want to rot in bed. The trash is overflowing.
My message is do that. If that's what your spirit needs right now, let it be a mess. Eat the unhealthy food. If that is what your spirit is calling you to do right now, do it. Now if it becomes like a long term, like more than a couple weeks, I think that it's time to start to understand what it is. Like if you already know what's wrong, that kind of helps a little bit, but I think that just being okay with where you are and sitting with however you're feeling and whatever you feel like doing is important because I've spent a lot of years being really hard on myself and really forcing myself to cleaning when I don't want to clean is always fine. Like nothing, it's always fine. It's always okay. But I don't feel like I do as good of a job and I feel the energy. But when I wait until I'm like, I can do this. I can do this. I feel the energy in my house being different. So I feel like just honoring what you feel like you need in that moment is so important because your spirit knows. Your spirit knows when you need rest. Your spirit knows when you need comfort food. And that's a part of healing, I think. So being okay with it being messy for a couple days until you get your crap together is okay with me. Um, as long as it's something that you intend to be open to being ready for.
Yeah, definitely. As we're all going to have to come to those eight limbs eventually, we're going to have to clean up. And personally, I'm with you. I've gone through points in my life where I'm trying to force myself to be something, or I'm really angry at myself because I'm not doing X, Y, Z, and I'm so untogether. I need to get my life together. So I always have said. But
Mhm.
it's just kind of like if you're not being driven in this moment, then maybe sometimes lean into that. Lean into wherever your heart, wherever your body, your soul is taking you, and then eventually you'll be dissatisfied enough with the circumstances to change them. And I mean, how long will you let it go on for? I don't know. It's different for everybody. I've definitely gone years on crazy paths and habits and holes that I thought I would never get out of. But I guess you never know. We're constantly, always unconsciously trying to be imbalanced in whatever you need to be balanced is going to change from moment to moment. It's always different. It's always changing. So, yeah, thank you so much for talking about Saucha and cleanliness. I really like what you had to share. So, thank you for being open and all those great things. Was there anything else that you wanted to say?
I just want to say thank you so much for opening this platform to speak openly and comfortably about all these things that are just really personal to people. And I think it's really important to talk about these things and just make it a comfortable, cool conversation with two cool, normal people, and not just like these gurus talking about in Sanskrit. So I really appreciate this platform and the opportunity to speak more on my yoga journey and what it's meant to me and how I still carry it out today. So thank you so much.
Yes, I'm here for it. I definitely want yoga to feel attainable for myself and then like just for everybody because it is something that's attainable. I don't have to be some like you said a guru, somebody that knows every single Sanskrit term and that only eats once a week and that sits there and meditates for 48 hours at a time. Take it little by little, check in with your day-to-day life. I'm checking in with my day-to-day life and really, asking questions and observing, like you said, just observing, seeing where I'm at, and being open to change when I'm ready for it. So thank you for bringing up so many great points. So before we go, I always ask everybody to lead us through a quick pranayama of their choice, just a few cues and a few breaths.
Cool. Let me think. Can we do a little activity that I learned in my yoga teacher training this weekend for yoga therapy? It's not just breath, there's just a tiny bit of hand work as well. It's okay? All right. So, for everybody listening, let's just make sure we're in a comfortable position. We'll start tuning into the sound of the breath, start noticing the coolness of the inhales and the warmth of the exhales. Once we feel like we're comfortable with our breath, we'll bring the fingertips to just above the eyebrows and we'll make some little tiny circles, feather light across the eyebrows to the temples and back. We'll just spend a few deep, calm breaths here, just lightly making some circles above the brow. When you're finished with your next breath, bring the fingertips to the inner corner under the eyes and just gently sweep to the temples as lightly as you can. Noticing the coolness of the inhale, warmth of the exhale. And finally, we'll bring the fingers, first finger and thumb, to the ears, and we'll massage the thick cartilaginous part of the ear for just a few breaths, maybe even working all the way up the outside of the ear and around. To close our breath practice, we'll bring our fingers to our chest and just make some little tiny taps across the collarbones, still noticing the inhales and the exhales. And when you're ready, we'll release the hands. Spend one more breath, just noticing how you're feeling, no judgment, just noticing. And to close the practice, we'll bring palms to heart center. Just think a few thoughts of gratitude. And we'll let it all go.
Thank you so much, Guinn. Peace. Namaste.
Namaste, Kyah. Thank you so much.
You're listening to the Perfect Prana Show. If you'd like to connect with Guinn, check the show notes for her website. Connect with me by following me on Instagram at ConsistentlyKyah, consistently spelled with a K, Kyah spelled Kyah. Yoga theme. Last week's yoga theme was rest. It was a little bit of a grim episode. I did post the yoga video to go with it yesterday. Was I late? Yeah, but look, I've been busy. Y'all, I have been busy. I was studying to get my certification as a personal trainer, and that kind of took over my life for a minute, where I was like, I can't do anything except studying, and doing anything except studying is a waste of time. I definitely was a last minute Lucy with that whole study situation. I had this test coming up. Actually, I didn't even schedule it to the last minute, and then once I scheduled it, I didn't really start studying hard until like a week before the test. I hope I learned my lesson. I really hope I learned my lesson. I hate to impose that kind of stress on myself, but look, life happens. I got the test done. I passed, by the way. But yeah, that took over. So I I am behind on recording and filming and editing and all that great stuff. But look, I posted my restful yoga asana yesterday, and it's a very short rest, which is okay. And I think that's a pretty good thing. It's just a few postures. I talk the concept a little bit more in depth, and that is up on YouTube now. My YouTube is the same as my Instagram at Consistently Kyah, consistently spelled with a K, Kyah spelled Kyah. This week's yoga theme: pulling. This is actually inspired by a conversation I was having with a former coworker of mine. He was actually on this show. His name was Jeremy, and he was super dedicated to his yoga practice. We had that in common. And he was also a gym rat, or maybe a former gym rat. And we were both pondering on the fact that there's not a lot of pulling motion in yoga. And I Googled it, and I'm not the only person that noticed this. There's not a lot of pulling in yoga. There's a lot of pushing, not a lot of pulling. Something to note is there are several movement patterns. I'm not going to name all of them, but some of the basic ones are squatting, hip hinge, pushing, pressing, and pulling is one of them. I don't even think I named all of them, but those are some of the basic ones. Pulling is definitely good for our posterior chain, our back body. I mean, literally pulling your legs, pulling with your upper body, finding movements where you can do that will definitely strengthen your back body. And honestly, when I started my pull-up journey, that was definitely a pivotal moment for me with my fitness. And I have a few moments like that, but I will say me training to do a pull-up and actually being able to do one and then building upon that skill. Can I still do as many as I used to be able to do now? No, probably because I don't do a lot of pulling movements anymore now that I've used yoga as my movement practice. But when I was going to the gym and I was doing more pulling exercises, I would definitely say that was very beneficial for me. Good for my posture, good for my strength. You need a strong back. And actually, a lot of us have weak backs now because of the way that we sit. If you ever go to a personal trainer or some type of physical therapist, or I don't know, to a stretch therapist or a chiropractor, anybody, we all have agreed that the back body gets super weak because we're sitting down constantly. We're constantly hunched over on our phones, our laptops, driving. And so it gets super stretched out and super weak because we're not utilizing the muscles in the back body to pull our chest forward. With all that being said, I wanted to focus on pulling for one of my asana videos, and I've been researching some different movements in yoga to where we utilize pulling in strengthening those muscles. Some people say that you cannot replace the gym with yoga, but maybe there's a way. I don't know. Maybe you can fuse the practices together. I mean, you have people that do calisthenics, they never pick up a weight and they seem like they are not deficient in any movement or any strength at all. I think it just depends on what you practice. and how attentive you are. Just maybe the gym can be replaced with yoga for those that don't like the gym, or they're not comfortable in the gym, or that's just not their scene, that's not their thing. Maybe all the things that we need in the gym we can get through a yoga practice. I don't know. This is a great debate. I will be doing a pulling yoga practice. Not only is this concept important on a physical level to be able to pull, but it is also on a mental level important to be able to pull. Sometimes when I think of pulling, I think of manifesting or attracting, like pulling things toward you with your energy, or even just thinking of pulling yourself out of a dark place. Sometimes in life, times get hard. Sometimes you have to go within, and then sometimes you have to pull yourself out of that place, and sometimes you have to move forward. All these concepts, they just work together, and that's exactly what I want, because all these physical concepts, they're important mentally as well. Sometimes you have to pull your resources. I don't know, there's a lot of ways that this applies. This has been a very lovely show. Thank you all so much for listening if you've made it thus far. The light and dark in me bows to the light and dark within you. Namaste.